president of CEMRI. The president of CEMRI is here, and I'll give him the floor to address us before I take off from there. Thank you. Dr. Lepa? Sorry.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon to the first roundtable discussion of Center for Multidisciplinary Research and Innovation. I welcome our speakers from all parts of the world in this program today. Let me briefly tell you about CEMRI. CEMRI, that is a Center for Multidisciplinary Research and Innovation. There are a group of researchers who want to impact the society through research and innovation. So members of CEMRI are drawn from all parts of Africa, and researchers in different fields. So it is a multidisciplinary organization. We've been here for some years now, and our responsibility is to ensure that we profile solutions to African problems. So you are welcome to this roundtable discussion. We've been doing this for a while, and this very edition is on weaponizing the mind, AI cyberspace, and the future of psychological operation. Your mind is your power. It is important that you sit this afternoon or evening or morning, depending on where you are joining us from, and listen to our erudite scholars, speakers, and specialists, professional experts in their field on this subject matter. It promised to be a wonderful evening. An evening of academic romance, academic intercourse. We are going to discuss, argue, and at the end of the day, formulate policies that is going to help our government, that is going to improve Africa and the world at large. So you are welcome once again to this great occasion. Thank you, and God bless you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Very well.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. So without wasting much of our time, one of the good things with this roundtable discussion, being the first one for this particular year, is the fact that the invited speakers have initially published a paper in this area, and we don't want it to be like where I'm going to lecture anybody, but I just want to let you know that this particular field has been interrogated by them. And we are not here now to synthesize the paper, but to just let you know that this argument has been on ground, and they are here also to give that, for us to engage with them, and also to see how what we can learn from there, and for whatever we can pass on in terms of policy. So for this particular session, I will invite Maury Dawson as the lead author of that paper, for instance, to kickstart the discussion. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and to talk about the research we conducted. And this research is very, I guess, interesting to us, and I believe it's important to the continent because there's lots of different growths and transformations happening in the African continent, and particularly with Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, Tunisia, as it relates to artificial intelligence. And so as a number of countries are adopting these new technologies, the problem comes, where is this technology coming from, and the amount of control that these technologies can actually use or perform on the continent. For example, the youngest populations are on the African continent. And so as the younger minds who are using these technologies like TikTok and Snapchat, and what that means is that younger individuals are becoming more prone to taking information in smaller chunks. And so if you're not the ones like developing the technology, and you're actually taking it from, we'll just say the UK or France, if you're a former Francophone, if you're a Francophone country, then what is actually being pushed out? And so what we did, we wanted to actually research and understand how did psychological operations occur. And so, we went back and we learned like this occurred in World War II, how the Japanese were saying that, hey, this is what's going on with your soldiers. During the Vietnam War, where you had Black Americans fighting in Vietnam, there were messages sent to Black Americans like, hey, Black man, this isn't your war, go home. And so there you had many Black Americans that were like, wait a minute, I'm forced to be here because, these are different times in the United States. I'm forced to be here and fight this war. And yet the enemy knows I don't really want to be here. And they're telling me, hey, we're not mad at you. You should just leave. And so now you have these soldiers that are there that are forced to be there, and they're thinking in their heads like, this isn't a war for me. So the whole notion of being able to change the minds and hearts of people through information is a key factor in this type of warfare. This is cognitive warfare, right? Changing the hearts and minds with information, changing how people do policies. In the first Trump administration, when you think about social media and how social media, these movements occurred, you could see a whole section of the country that was behind this MAGA movement and still behind this in the MAGA movement, but they this is misinformation. They don't know what's right or what's wrong, and so they follow a particular social media and they use that to control themselves. So the importance here, or I guess you could say the overview, is really understanding the I guess you can say the issues or the reactions of this particular type of warfare or misinformation, disinformation, and then really the impact and then how to advert that. And that is what we're here to talk about.
Okay, and you drew a line from World War II propaganda to today's AI-driven influence operations. What would you say is the single most important thing that has changed, and what has stayed the same?
So, it's kind of twofold, and it differs from country to country, right? So some countries still have like strong relationships with their former colonial powers, right? And some they don't, right? You think of the Sahel, you think of Niger, Burkina Faso, Mali, they're not taking applications from France and things of that particular nature, but you have some countries that still have pretty strong knit ties. And so getting that particular technology, hey, you're going to implement AI, here's your Huawei routers and your network infrastructure. And then, oh, by the way, we have built an AI tool. You don't have to worry about it. You can just use it. And so they're actually using this and they're implementing this within their system to make decisions. However, they have no clue how the system makes decisions. And the system is making decisions for these Africans based upon what is good for the actual former colonial masters. And so that is the thing. You don't understand. People have the inability to see inside these AI systems and how these decisions are actually going to impact them long term. And I think that is the whole big thing. Just to go back, like in the past, when you think about the CIFA and stuff like that, like the whole idea of using the CIFA, that was sold as, hey, you have your independence, but we have the ability to really manage the money, and the money's going to go a lot better with us. And we can see how these former francophone countries have done underneath using the CIFA and where they are today. And again, it's another form. It's a risk of digital colonialization, as we call it.
If artificial intelligence allows to influence operations to scale globally, are we entering an era where information dominance become more important than military power?
It does, because you don't need to fight wars with guns and bullets, right? You can disable systems, countries away, lands away. And then also, if you can influence a population without ever having to step ground, you've lost no lives. There's nothing really for you to lose. Like, all right, I can have a small team and they can influence an election. Say you have an election, it's like, all right, we want to elect a leader that's going to be closer with our particular country, what we want to do, what our regime wants. We'll just go on social media, we'll create deepfakes, and we'll deploy those against various populations who are actively voting. Or you could use that to get people energized to vote. So in some countries, for example, in Southern Africa, you have some populations that young people don't vote. But imagine they're able to send text messages, hey, go check this out. This is what's going on here. And they're sending these messages, hey, you need to go on, Facebook, take a look at this. And they're seeing these messages, and it's the person that they would generally trust. And they're saying things like, hey, we're going to work with this particular country. We don't believe in this particular tribe. And they're using tribalism to create division to actually get the person they want in power.
Okay. And you see, having said that, if should government now, do you think that government should treat cognitive warfare as a formal national security domain, just like cyberspace?
They should, and it should be in cyberspace. So cyberspace is very broad, right? So if you say cyberspace or cybersecurity, it can be physical security. So this could be issues dealing with physical security. We'll take Nigeria, right? So we all know the North. We know Boko Haram. We know Fulani militants. We know the Delta, where you have pirates. And so, that would be like physical security. But when you look at items where they say, all right, well, you have Hausa here, and this is what they said, and this is what the Igbo said, and like the individual who was wanting a Biafra state, who was in Europe, who ended up, I believe he got deported, that's something as well. So he's out there giving messages saying this is what we should do. And so he's using the internet, right? He's using the power of the internet to spread messages that could be damaging to various regions of the country. This is more likely Southeast Nigeria. So this is something to think about. And so I don't know if you need to have a particular part of the organization, maybe it's a security organization or Nigerian military, that is focused on what is real and what is not. The countries that do this well, they're the ones that are former USSR countries, right? So they border Russia. Russian influence is pretty heavy. And so one particular country, every Friday, they go on the news and say, hey, this is fake news.
Somebody's mic is on, please. If you're not speaking, please turn off your mic. Thank you. Please go ahead, sir.
Okay, yes. So those countries, they understand, Russian disinformation, misinformation. They call it active measures. And so Nigeria and other countries need to start doing the same, right? You think about all the things and the conflicts that are going on. You think about Ethiopia and what they have going with Eritrea. You think about what's going on in Sudan. You have to be able to dispel this stuff so you don't create mass confusion. Because if you have mass confusion and people are running astray, then it's much more difficult to get a hold of the situation. By that time, you have more problems that are erupting on the ground. And you're muted right now.
Okay, I'm trying to mute others. I muted mine. I said you and your team identify tools that were originally built for education and communication to have been repurposed for psychological operations. Where does the responsibility lies? Is it with the developers, the deployers, or the regulators?
So first, I would say that there needs to be policy in place and that the governments need to take a stance, and then from there, educating people, right? And so it's difficult, in the age of AI, it's very difficult to know what's real or what's not. I'll give another prime example. I like watching Nollywood movies, right? And so now on Facebook, there's a lot of AI-made movies that seem like it's out of Lego. So I'm watching the movie, I'm like, okay, I've never seen this show before. And then I'll see a glitch, and like, oh, okay, this is AI. But it's becoming harder and harder to distinguish. And that's the thing. So people, the actual citizens of the countries need to understand, like, hey, that this technology has the ability to show you this, and you need to take a step further to really understand what's going on, right? You can't take the news for face value. You have to do your due diligence. And then you need an organization within the government that helps dispel this disinformation as well. So it makes it easier on citizens. So they understand, okay, well, yeah, this is fake. This is fake. But some may look and sound very real. It's basically a replicate of an actual person. Because with some of the AI tools, if you have about 30 minutes of them talking, you can have that particular tool recreate their likeness to a T. And that becomes an issue. So if you have a politician who's out there on the web a lot, they're on TV, they can have everything that they've done. They can have their voice isolated. It can go through a system, an AI generation system, and they can generate any types of words of that particular individual.
Before I proceed to other speaker, I still want to take your one more question before I move to allowing other people to contribute. Which emerging technology represent the greatest threat for psychological manipulation? Some of them you have like Gen AI, generative AI, you have deepfakes, you have social media algorithms, then you have data-driven micro-targeting. And any other ones that I'm not able to mention. So which of them do you think is the greatest risk for PsychOps?
So for PsyOps, all these tools, they do different things, okay, right? They all do different things. You could think of a tool that can help you rewrite a paper, right? Look at grammatical mistakes and stuff like that and ways that you phrase stuff. And we all know in different languages, the way you phrase stuff can sound positive or negative. And so it could be even that tool that makes something sound very negative or very harsh, right? When my wife was teaching me Yoruba, like I was learning Yoruba, for example, and so I would say "bawo ni," and she's like, "Whoa, that sounds very harsh. You should not sound so harsh." I was like, "Okay," and she's like, "Just say "bawo ni." I was like, "Oh," she's like, raising your tone and the way you say it and how you project yourself makes it say like, "Hey, hello." I'm like, "Oh, okay." I said, let me try this again. And so with these tools, the same thing when you're writing these particular items out, you can be thinking that you're saying a nice message, but the way that the tool has it saying, you're sounding very defensive, very argumentative. And so they're reading this like, oh my gosh, it's like when you get a text message and everything's in all caps. And so that's one particular item. And then when you think about deepfakes is going to go to a whole nother type, right? So deepfakes is basically the imitation or the likeness of a particular individual. And so now you have that, right? So everything touches on different things. And then when you just think about like social media in general, people creating fake pages, the ability to get your blue check mark to say you're verified and get thousands, if not millions of followers is not a difficult thing these days.
I just want to take you up on something again, because we're looking at democratic vulnerability and governance, because it is most important as these tools evolve. And one of the most important aspects is to look at how this disadvantage or will generate disadvantage that's in terms of democracy. So the paper argues democracies are structurally disadvantaged in the information warfare. So do you agree? And if so, what is the realistic policy response that does not compromise civil liberties?
Yeah, that's a complicated one. So in democracies, we are under the belief that, freedom of speech and things of this particular nature, right? We take them seriously. It depends on which administration, but these are things that we believe in. And so the problem with that is with, freedom of speech and the ability to disseminate information, everybody can do this. And there's not really something to really check. There's no way you can really check everything. And then you look at authoritarian regime, they are like, hey, everything's coming through me, is going through one particular focal point, and then they're disseminating information, right? So they know what they're disseminating because they're the ones doing it. And so that becomes the issue in terms of like, you have free speech, you have the ability to say whatever you want, but then there has to be something to verify that it's true. And that is one of the issues. So while you're allowing everyone to say what they feel, what they think, what they believe in, to present news, there has to be something that says, hey, this is legitimate or not. They said all these items. Okay, well, let's fact check everything they said. During the first Trump administration, that was something that the news did. So whenever there was a speech that was given, it was like, all right, this is real, this is not real. Here's the information. So people could actually look further, like, okay, well, I don't believe that's not real. And then you can click further and say, oh, well, it's fact checked. And that's something that's needed.
Thank you. I think we have several other speakers, but I just want to keep moving the questions around and see how every other person comes up. We have the Abdul Khan is one of the speaker. We have Robinson Sibe is one of the speaker. We have Diamond Walker is one of the speakers. So as I put a question towards them, they will introduce themselves and lead on from that, so that those listening will know who is speaking. I just want to move a bit away from just democracy into the tools, more details. So I'll just be looking at the AI aspect. So my question is, how effective are current machine models at detecting coordinated misinformation campaign? Like, for instance, Dawson just said, you need some of these things to be checked. Like they were doing fast checking at some time ago as to how factual is the information you're putting on. So my question is, I want to direct this one to to Abdul. Abdul Khan is with us. Is a cybersecurity and digital forensic individual at Illinois Tech. So Abdul, can you take us on this? How effective are the current machine learning models at detecting coordinated misinformation campaign?
Okay, thank you so much for redirecting this question to me. And it's a pleasure for me to be part of this panel. So, like, if we talk about from a technical perspective, we also did research on weaponizing the AI for PsyOps. So when we were doing our research, we observed that we have moved past the era of simply like checking if the fact is true or not, just like Dr. Dawson stated a couple of moments back. So today we're in a strategic inflection point where AI systems basically focus on detecting patterns of coordination rather than just the content itself. So to basically understand on a technical level that how can we fight, there are like several different layers to have a look at it. And because they're like different sort of layers, let's say we do have like behavioral analysis. So we can use machine learning to identify what we basically call coordinated and authentic behavior. Okay. So we look for accounts acting in specific synchronization. Uh, Also in our study, we actually demonstrated that by using GPT, we just use simple chat GPT. There are like way more advanced AI tools that we can, use to modify specific information, and we can just use that for feeding misinformation. So we basically use ChatGPT to modify a political graphic and flip its message, which was basically there was one political party having their campaign and it's being distributed online, and we portray that just using a simple tool. We just basically changed their entire political moment, their entire agenda, and which was pretty amazing. And if you're going to look at on a large scale, let's say if thousands of accounts post the same AI generated content within a second, okay? So if we have like a behavioral analysis model that can basically, just flag it as an artificial bot network rather than a natural conversation, because humanly it's not possible that same content with a slight change can be, posted online within a couple of minutes or a couple of hours from hundreds of thousands of accounts. Same thing, it's not possible. Yeah, there should be uh like a difference between the content, because as a human it's technically not possible. Apart from that, we also have to, look into something else. Uh, we employ like AI-powered sentiment analysis to monitor the emotional temperature of a region in a real time. This basically allow us to see when a narrative is being artificially seeded or it's not. Let's say we talk about today's example. Today, what's going on? Like Iran, like attacked several different countries, and as Israel did an airstrike on Iran as well. So there was like a narrative build up online that, hey, that we have destroyed the residence of the leaders or different commanders of the Iranian military, uh, and there was a misinformation narrative build up in those on the social media. But it was, it was out there on thousands of accounts within like a couple of minutes after the attack, which is definitely not possible. It was basically like just, just to um, amplify fear and unrest in a specific region. Uh, so this is something important that we used AI powered based sentiment analysis to find out what exactly is going on within that specific region. So apart from that, one more important thing is as the advanced the NLP models, the natural language processing models, can detect if a text is likely generated by a machine. Although we know that AI has been and so advanced, the NLP models have been so advanced that they can mimics an author's specific style tone, but uh, still it can detect whatsoever it's generated by the model itself.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just also want to ask on the Samson, one of the speakers as well, if he has something to contribute to that particular question of how these machine learning models are able to detect coordinated misinformation campaigns. It could be a different perspective. We just want to hear you speak, sir. Thank you. Are you on the call?
No, he won't be here until
Okay.
28 minutes from now.
Okay, that's fine. Then we can move on. One more question to go is can artificial intelligence be used defensively to predict influence operation before they spread? Because it is one thing to allow this to spread first, then it is another thing to now detect and see and discover that okay, it is a misinformation, and it has already begun to sink through the minds of the people. So the question here is there the way that these models can defensively predict the influence of the operation before they begin to spread? I think I will direct this to both Dawson and Walker. I can take up with Walker first, then I'll come back to you. Thank you. Okay. Please pardon me if I'm not pronouncing your name well. So
no, you actually pronounced it correctly. But thank you for having me here. But yeah, to answer your question, yes, artificial intelligence can be used to defensively analyze by using the analysis tools that are associated with artificial intelligence. You can use that to help identify potential threats before they spread. So like you said, there's some things that may seep through the crack, but if you know, it's kind of difficult. But if you know your person, you can use AI to analyze those deep fakes to give you a better understanding of, was this created through a tool or was this the actual person that used these things? So Dawson, you may be able to elaborate on that a little bit more.
Yeah, sure. So if we use AI to automate tasks, right? So if we look at individuals that are from the intelligence community and they do intelligence analysis and stuff like that, you can use AI to go through and perform the duties of what an analyst would do. In a previous research by the center, we actually used AI to uncover domestic terrorists here in the United States. And so look at accounts, figure out who they were based upon their tweets, analyze the characters and the messages, look for metadata and stuff like that, and then figure out who these people were in real life. You can do the same thing with these particular messages, and you can say, all right, well, there's somebody spreading this information, right? Like Abdul mentioned about what's going on currently with, you have a attack, and within 5 minutes, you got several hundred messages that have flooded the internet. You can actually have particular AI agents go out there and say, all right, well, let me start looking at these accounts, seeing what's legitimate. Is there a nation state behind this, or is this just a particular, I guess you could say, political agenda that's being done, that's doing this particular as well? So, even though AI can have some negative uses, there's some positive uses. And so that's one of the positive things, because if you're limited on the amount of, I guess you can say, people that you have, your workforce for that particular type of activity, you can use AI to do that particular item. And so you can have systems deployed to look at negative things and identify that and say, all right, well, we looked at this, we've analyzed this, our particular agent has decided that this is not a real account, is actually an AI system itself creating this news or disinformation.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I will jump on to the next. I think I want to go to CBA. I think I'm looking for a simple name to pronounce. CBA, I just want to take you on something on your on the digital forensic. What forensic indicators reveal that an influence campaign is coordinated rather than organic, drawing from how can explain the model. So we can take it up from that point. Please introduce yourself and tell us who you are so that for the benefit of those that are listening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Dr. Sibe, Robinson Sibe. I'm the CEO and lead forensic examiner of Digital Footprints Nigeria, also a visiting fellow of University of South Wales. You know, this has radically altered the whole concept of how the traditional digital forensics ordinarily would work, which is to answer those typical questions of who, when, what, where, and how. Currently now you want to look at, is this real and how did it happen, before you start answering those traditional questions. So from a forensic point of view, traditional forensics, you're looking for a device or a network, packets and stuff for you to start analyzing it and looking for indicators. But in this case, it is largely pattern matching or behavioral analysis, which you do in combination with other indicators. So from a forensic indicator point of view, I'd look at it in different layers. First of all, I'll look at the clock signature or what I would call temporal indicators, which is to analyze the sequence of activities that happen. The human being is not so orderly that should happen or the event should happen in a very regulated manner. For instance, it is not possible, say, for somebody to make posts every 70 or 30 seconds or 50 seconds or in a regular interval such as that. For instance, over a day or over 2 days, definitely no human is that orderly. And when these posts do happen, it is difficult to take away those clock signatures. So when you do your analysis, you look out for things like that, that regularity in this case. Also synchronized amplification, the fact that when the post is made, it depends on other amplification techniques, and most of the time this is done simultaneously. It's done in a synchronous manner, which that it's not something that, it's not easy to get 100 persons to do or make posts with such synchronized manner. So that is usually one indicator to look at. Also, pre-event positioning, which is that when you do your analysis, you see that, for instance, an account may have been created for something to happen before the post happens. And when you do your forensic mapping of engagement timelines and map it against real-world events, you can use that as a marker to see that, this follows a pattern of, exploiting, events. Also, if you look at another layer, which is the behavioral network indicators, not network as in physical network, but social graphs, which you look at who are the group of demographics who are behind this, what is the common thing behind them, what is the common attributes behind them.
Sorry, please mute your call. Mute your call, please. Just a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So you look at things such as, synchronization. Is there cross-platform synchronization? For instance, is a similar post being done across TikTok, across Twitter, across Facebook? Such level of synchronization is also a marker to say, look, this is not something that is normal. It's not an organic action. Also, if you look at another layer, account and infrastructure indicator, this is the creation signature itself, where you do your analysis of all of the accounts or some of the accounts behind this, and you could see patterns. You could see, for instance, bulk creation clustering, which is like, a lot of accounts were created at a particular time or within a particular window that is indicative of a premeditated action to support that. Also, shared infrastructure fingerprints, common hosting providers, shared image ranges. These are things that you can use to map or to show that there are coordinated hands behind it. Also, operational infrastructure reuse, the fact that there are usually technical indicators in situations like this, which will show co-sharing or infrastructure reuse. And then, no matter how smart you are, there's always a mistake somewhere down the line. People use images and sometimes they forget to clean or scrub the image, and the metadata can betray the message behind it. So that's also another marker. And then finally, which is ordinarily in traditional forensics, is what you want to tackle first. But finally, I'll put this at the last, which is the content indicators itself, which is where you look at the patterns, you analyze the content, and you see the variations. And unfortunately, AI has made that very difficult. But again, AI has also made that easier now due to large language models. You're able to do content analysis and all that. And if I do another bonus of, other narrative structural indicators, such as, identical narrative frames, rapid pivoting across different platforms. So let me stop here.
I think the forensic is, you're looking at footprints, but my follow-up question is, with the way large language model is evolving, are you aware of how the forensic experts are working with machine learning expert in order to develop systems that is proactive rather than reactive? Because it is one thing for forensic experts to come in after the event has happened to look at the footprint. It is another thing to, over the years, have built that particular experience into the machine learning environment that helps us to proactively handle some of this, especially the misinformation issue going on. So just a question of a handshake. Is there a current handshake going on, and to what extent has that happened?
Yeah, there are lots of handshakes, and there has to be a firm handshake for that to happen, because you're going in the realm. This is a multidisciplinary area. You can't tackle this purely from a forensic point of view. You tackle this. You notice that if I was analyzing this from maybe a device forensic point of view, I'd probably use a different set of language sets that I'm using now. That's to tell you that gradually, that even the language set is opening up to the realization that, look, you can't easily pinpoint things. You can't easily follow digital footprints like we used to in traditional forensics. So now you have to need the services of even psychologists. You need the services of AI experts, because you're looking at patterns, you're looking at content, you're looking at behavior analytics. You're also looking at aspects of it, which is the traditional forensics, which is built around infrastructure forensics or the infrastructure footprints. And all of this requires handshake across domains. So yes, there's a lot of that is happening. And I believe even this conversation that we are having here reflects that diversity. I'm sure a lot of, if you look at the lineup of speakers here, they're from different backgrounds. So it reflects that diversity.
Speaking about multidisciplinary, of course, I think I am adequately suited for multidisciplinary aspect as well. I understand the power of handshake. I have first and second degree in computer science and a PhD in geoscience. So I can speak across different domains. So I understand. So that's the reason why I specifically asked for that question, because it is not about it. The way things are evolving now it will be good if you're able to speak many languages. Many languages here is, can you speak across domain? Yes, you have area of expertise. Can you quickly speak across domain? If the answer is no, do you have what it takes to assemble to identify that you need help, particularly from this particular aspect? Now, one last question before I leave you for now is, how difficult is it to attribute influence operation when attackers can operate through automated bot networks?
Yeah, thank you. Very difficult question to explain, but normally attribution has always been the biggest, one of the biggest challenges in forensics. You could find something, but to attribute it to someone is usually the difficult thing. Now, in this particular situation, it is even more difficult because it's not so direct. It's not the traditional forensics where you say, oh, you see this event happen, you see the login, you see the pattern, you see the post, you see the metadata, and you're able to say, okay, this happened. In this case, there are lots of things that makes it difficult. But then attribution in influence operations, if I'm to answer this, I'll look at this from three layers of investigation. First of all, we look at it from the technical angle. And in that area, we have to ask ourselves questions such as, what does the evidence show? And in answering that, or in further asking questions around the technical attribution, you can ask questions such as, what infrastructure was used and who controls the infrastructure? If you answer that question, you're getting one step closer, because you're knowing the infrastructure, you're knowing who controls the infrastructure, and what are the things that can make you pinpoint these things. Things such as IP addresses, domain registration records, server fingerprints, or even codes, looking at codes, and code sim itself is used, to falsify or to deceive or to point you in another direction. Technical attribution basically would deal with, things like direct digital forensic evidence, studying computer codes, like I mentioned earlier, or even network activity. All of these technical activities can help you answer the question of technical attribution. Then if you look at another layer of it is the operational attribution. And that's when you ask the question, who is behind this? So who is behind this operation? There has to be someone behind it if it is, a coordinated influence campaign. And that question is not very easy to always answer because, for instance, if it's a nation state, sponsored operation, it's going to be difficult. It's not always very easy to point it to the nation. And there are lots of such examples. For instance, the 2018 Olympic destroyer mall where there were conflicting attributions because it was carefully designed in a way that would actually point people into different angles. But it took a while before it was able to, that attribution was answered in trying to know, which threat actor group or which nation state, is behind it. You have to look out for a lot of false flags around this corner to be able to answer that question. And then if you look at another layer, which is that of strategic attribution, which is who ordered it, again, not always very easy. And because you're looking at the state or organizational level, which organization ordered it. In most cases, it is difficult to see a direct link. And that's where you can't really answer it based on technical evidence directly. It's not always very easy to answer that based on technical evidence, but you have a combination of ways you can get that, and that's through other levels of intelligence operations, which goes beyond traditional forensics, to be able to answer that attribution question around the strategic interests or the strategic organizations behind it. But
so just
summary, okay.
Yeah, just a quick one.
Okay.
I've always been an advocate of the fact that anything innovative academically should be able to translate to the business model of science. And specifically this area where you are, I'm sure that you talk to state actors a lot of the time. And the question I want to put forward finally is, because of our objective as CEMRI, we're looking forward to providing innovative solution to African problem. So I'm from Nigeria, there are Ghanaians and every other African representative here. But I want to look at Nigeria, for instance. What can government do, or who are those that can provide the right investment that is needed to ensure this kind of forensic evidencing, because we have a lot of issues that requires that either are we ready now? If we're not ready now, where do you think we are, and what do you think we should do to prepare for tomorrow? Because the tomorrow is fast approaching, and it's approaching at a very alarming rate that if we're not prepared, we might have a problem to deal with. Sorry, it's just a question that I needed you to touch on before you go.
Yeah, thank you. And it's a very important question because I'm in the thick of things, so I can tell you, I'm worried about our level of readiness. And so, events such as this is to discuss solutions. So, yeah, from a solutions point of view, it calls for collective action. I have done a lot of work. I've done a lot of research around forensic readiness, around cybersecurity readiness in Nigeria and in Africa. I've also been directly involved in a lot of trainings across different organizations, whether it be academia or it be law enforcement or it be national sets, or, I've done a lot of trainings for national sets across Africa, not just in Nigeria. So there is a lot of gap, I have to tell you that. And as you very well know, it is very expensive to bridge those gaps. But then it takes one step at a time. If you have a clear-cut plan to address that, let me start from this very simple foundational basics. Our universities, how many universities in Nigeria have a solid forensic department? I know you know the answer. So we have to start at that level to bridge the gap. We have to also maybe set up centers of excellence, since forensics is a very expensive thing. And it's also what I'm sure Dr. Dawson can mention a thing or two around that space. In the United States, there are over 200, 230 or something centers of excellence. So in Nigeria, we don't have that kind of funds, but we can start. If we start maybe from the 6 geopolitical zones for centers of excellence in forensics, we can also, organizations can support in that regard, because when you look at today, we always hear that this bank was attacked, that bank was attacked, but we do not hear much around the attribution angle, much around the forensics of it, much around if it was actually solved. One of the things you take away from a cyber attack is lessons learned. And forensics is what will teach you, or what will show you what you did wrong, which you can learn from. So if you don't have the capacity to learn after an event happens, which means you don't have the forensic capacity, it means that you're going to make the same mistakes all over again. So we need to coordinate it from an educational angle. We need to look at it from an industrial angle. Even banks, CBN in Nigeria, for instance, set up the cybersecurity framework. But if you look at that cybersecurity framework, it only has one small paragraph of like 3-4 lines, and probably 1 or 2 mentions of forensics in an entire framework. If I'm not, and I mean it, if you go count it, I'm not sure there are three mentions of the word forensics in an entire framework for cybersecurity for a financial services sector. So at an industrial level, we need to build capacity. Look at all of the sectors contributing to Nigeria's GDP, apart from agriculture that's still very manual. The rest are all, very digital. Telecommunication sector in Nigeria is contributing 2 digits as we speak, ICT, and other, the services sector and all that, but how ready are we to, protect this or defend this and even boost our readiness and our resilience? We're not doing much from an industrial angle, and then from a strategic angle, even across the region. You talk about Africa, you talk about West Africa. There is fluidity of movement of persons. I can board the next flight to Ghana today. I don't need a visa because I'm a Nigerian. A Ghanaian can go to Togo, a Togolese can go to Cote d'Ivoire. Brilliant. But then it also has the challenges, which is that we move, there's also diffusion of criminals across the borders as well. And so even we have ECOWAS, we have ECOWAS charter, and we have all kinds of documents out there to regulate this, but we do not also collectively come together to build regional centers of excellence, and even intelligence sharing framework. We have all kinds of names, but you'll be surprised that sometimes it is easier to share intelligence with a Western nation than with the country next door. So there's a lot that needs to be done at the roots, at the local level, at the regional level, and at the continental level.
So you're simply saying that it is not enough to safeguard your house and leave your neighbors vulnerable because you're as well vulnerable.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. And Dr. Dancy, if you can add one or two from the American perspective here, because we are interested in finding solution to our problem in Africa. That is why CEMRI is here. So if you have something to add to what Sibe just discussed, I would really appreciate it.
Yeah, I think the information sharing that Sibe mentioned was interesting and really good because in the US, we only have two countries that border us. We have Canada to the north and Mexico to the south. However, the United States, we have 50 countries and number of territories, but our information sharing was not the greatest until after 9/11. So 9/11 really showed the country that at a federal and state level, a local level, that we aren't able to share information or intelligence to prevent attacks. And so then we created these centers, these fusion centers, and these fusion centers were provided with funding from the Department of Homeland Security. Local police were involved, and they got security clearance, and they learned, okay, this is how we have to share the information to understand what may come. And so information sharing started changing quite a bit within the country. Outside the country, we were working with NATO and other particular nations to help, I guess you could say, global security concerns. But just within the country, that federal and state level, they were like two different worlds. And even still, we are still evolving to work better with other nations and stuff like that. So it's an ongoing thing. But I think what Robinson is talking about is that, how can you be so close to nations like Ghana and you're like, hey, we have this issue, we have this organization, whether it be Boko Haram or maybe some Yahoo boy, that, hey, they're going to your country to do stuff. We want to know, when they get there, the activities they're doing and stuff like that. And yet this other nation may be like, okay, well, we don't really have that trust or that relationship built. And so you're not sending information back and forth. There's not an entity that is allowing you to send that information, cross-border communication, and be able to catch these, I guess you could say, nefarious actors. And so that is what's needed.
Thank you very much. Finally, for Sibe, I will give you the floor to add one or two things before I move on to the next segment, if you have something to add. Otherwise, I can just move on to the next segment.
Yeah, you can move on. I'll be here to take more questions.
Okay. Then looking at cybersecurity and governance, I'm coming back to Dr. Dawson now to say, how should cybersecurity framework evolve if the target of attacks is human perception rather than computer systems?
Yeah, so I think
please mute your phone when you're joining up. Please mute your mic. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
So when we think about frameworks, we have to think about a unified framework, whether it's NIST or ISO 27001. You have to have a unified framework throughout, right? And so once you have that unified framework, you have these baseline controls, only then you can customize things. And so if you're thinking that, if the belief is that the human element in terms of cognitive warfare is the issue, then you need to train that particular, you need to train that human element and then have controls that deter that particular issue. And so it's a multi-step, baseline, then identify what the problem is, and then have controls that allow organizations to say, all right, well, we are going to figure out a way to mitigate that risk.
You're muted.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Dr. Philip is here. I think I just want to bring up Dr. Philip to also contribute to this question, but briefly introduce yourself and take it up from here. Thank you.
Yeah, Philip Adewi. I work in Nigeria at Wigwe University and in Rivers State. And I want to say that is the best upcoming university in the old wide world.
Congratulations to you. I hope we'll have a center for forensic there.
Yeah, we actually have a program running here that is forensic. And we are in our year 2, and we are trying as much as possible to get people involved from across the world. Dr. Sibe, we'll be looking forward to partner even with you. Dr. Dawson, of course, one of these days you're going to be coming to Port Harcourt. You promised me that you'll be, when you come to Nigeria, you'll be visiting Calabar. So I've not forgotten. So we're going to take it off from there. Yeah, back to what you had. I want to really say in Africa, we are in their need of stability. Stability in terms of infrastructure. Of course, when you look at Nigeria, almost all our infrastructures are imported. So we still need much more homegrown companies to come up with solutions, because there is no how you depend on foreigners in terms of your security. There is no how you depend on them and they will be able to give you precisely what you need and what you want. As the landlord here, we better understand our terrain, and that is where we suffer here, and we continue to experience that. Breaking it down, when you look at infrastructure, I'm talking from background, engineering background. Yep. Of course, we're going to be talking in terms of your accelerated computer system. You're going to be talking about the GPU. Where are these coming from? Most of these things are coming from China as we speak. And how many people can even afford that? How many government organizations can even afford that in Africa? So that is where it starts. So it's so easy now for external individuals or external influence to bug whatever system that you are importing from their region. So let's look at it. So there must be a policy in place that will actually address such local production of all this. Then I want to go to these servers hosting all these infrastructures. Look at the servers. Cloud, we are talking about cloud now, and everybody is migrating to cloud. What happens in cloud? Do you know the back end, even the front end? Do you have control over all these infrastructures? Do you have control? Do we have control, in particular Africans? Do we have control? Especially Nigeria, because anything that happens to Nigeria, of course, we affect the whole of Africa, if you want to agree with me. If Nigeria sneezes, the whole of Africa is going to shake. And that is why we have to really make sure that whatever that is happening here is concretized in terms of technology. Thank God we have brains here, but we really need the enabling environment to push out all these policies for them to be workable, even to us, to localize them. Then another thing is issue of energy. Yeah, we are fine in so many parts of this Nigeria. Issues of energy is very paramount. Honestly, before you get a part that will be having maybe 15 hours of power per day in Nigeria, is difficult. Hardly will you have 2 months without you have national grid collapse. So
and that is the bedrock for you having a data center. That is a bedrock.
Exactly. So all this has to be put in place before we can begin to say crawl, because we've not even given back to what we are talking about. Because before we can even say, okay, we crawl, before we can even talk of running in terms of all this digital space. So we are in a bit or in a way vulnerable, and we should start coming together. And that is why I really appreciate this center for coming up with this kind of laudable topic and discussion that we are having today. So from there, all this has to be put in place from this side of the world, before we can begin to talk of following.
Just a follow-up question to you is, while we are waiting for the state actor, we are waiting for government to make the necessary policy. We all understand and we can agree that government is very slow when making this kind of decision. But at our own individual level, for instance, as a research institution, Wigwe, for instance, what has Wigwe done, or what effort are you guys making, being one of the best in the near future? Are you making any effort, or has any effort been made in this regard to host your own infrastructure, or you're still also borrowing foreign as well?
Yes, let me say, currently we are looking at the software aspect, and we have team of researchers who are really working to build our own local infrastructure. Then one other thing, we are looking at conservation, energy conservation. So here we have shifted from the traditional means of providing energy to all these infrastructures. We are now looking at, okay, how do we save our environment? Typically, how do we save our environment? And therefore, you see us moving from, just like I said, this conventional to energy saving. So it's a culture here, energy saving. In fact, you have designated park around here where you have to park your vehicle and you have to just move around. You park designated areas so that we're going to have a very clean environment and the people can
sustainability.
Exactly. That is what we are promoting here, 100%. So we have to look, across board, and all hands must be on deck. This is not a question of, oh, I'm not in this space. Yeah, everybody should contribute now, because as long as you carry a mobile phone or mobile device, you are vulnerable. Everyone is vulnerable. So all hands must be on deck. Even the market women out there, they are the most vulnerable. Let me give you a typical story. My retiree mother just called me one day, and she told me that all the money in her account has been
wiped.
I said, what happened? So when we went to the bank, we investigated. It took us to the headquarters in Lagos, and we were able to see, okay, the track of what really happened. So, many of these uneducated individuals, or let me say retirees, those who are not of our age, they are vulnerable, and it's really impacting negatively on our work.
So, thank you. Thank you very much. I think by the time we start posing questions to the floor, I'm sure many people are going to have questions that will bring you back into the loop again to go on from there. I have another questions that I need to pose to Dr. Dawson is, do we need international agreements that governs AI-driven influence operations, which is similar to like having treaties? Because as the pace at which we're evolving now, I think the initial focus was on crypto. They were looking at cryptocurrency and blockchain and other rules that will govern it. I think, please, can you mute your mic? Please mute your mic. Thank you. So, but the way AI is evolving, it is so fast that the focus now is, do we need to have this international agreement?
Sure. So the European Union, they have the EU Act of 2026. And so there's acts available, right? So first, what's needed is an act within the African Union, right? So you have ECOWAS and you have the other regions, ECOWAS, SADC, East African Federation. So you need at least something within ECOWAS. Then you need something that is going to be throughout the entire continent of Africa, so within AU. And so you have to start there, right? So you can't just say, all right, me, Nigeria, I'm going to be part of some national act. Even Europe, they have the act. They have legislation within their particular union. And so Africa needs the same thing, right? So once Africa has something like that, then you can say, I'm going to work with bodies outside the continent, because within the continent, all the countries are per se on a unified guidance, legislation, directives. And that needs to happen first. But yes, something like that does need to happen. But it's essential for ECOWAS, AU, and then once the entire 54 countries and unrecognized countries like Somaliland and Western Sahara are on board as well, then you move outside the continent and then work with other bodies.
I am of the opinion that there should be a basic human right, which is freedom of speech. But the question is, to what extent should that freedom of speech be exercised? And that is why I'm going to ask this question to, like, should social media platforms be legally required to detect and remove AI-generated misinformation? And yeah.
So the Kenyans right now are doing a lot of the training of these models, right? There's a lot of documentaries talking about how individuals in Nairobi are the ones being afflicted with lots of trauma because they're seeing messages, individuals being hurt, people doing very malicious things, and now they have to actually deal with this. And so you have that occurring already, right? At least through Kenya. But in terms of rights, you get into I would say it would require someone to be verified, right? There's something that goes on there that verifies what is appropriate. And I think maybe that is the best stance, like what's appropriate. Like various countries will have different things, but perhaps determining, okay, well, it's appropriate to talk about this or appropriate to say this. And then from there, the particular model, however that model was trained by a group of individuals, not one particular person, to eliminate bias, then can be deployed.
Thank you very much. I think I just want to go back to like AI, and I just want to open it up to all the speakers to contribute. For instance, I'm looking at, are we approaching a point whereby an AI-generated content becomes indistinguishable from authentic information? Because with the power available to large language module, they keep learning from their own digital footprint itself, and they keep advancing very, very well. So this question is very important as to how becomes indistinguishable from authentic information, because there is a thin line between an original information or an information that seems to be an AI generated. Anybody can take up this. The panelists, any of the speakers can speak on it, but I can start with Khan. Because it's tied back to the AI module, machine learning module. So we can take it from you. Anybody?
Sure, I'll speak briefly about that. So that one's really complex, right? Especially with, who owns some of these social media platforms and how, easy it is to get verified, right? I think now you pay $5 for the blue tick and now you're an official account. So previously, X and other organizations would have to go verify that these were legitimate people, they are famous, or they have some type of influence, but now you can just purchase that. And so irregardless, you cannot just state that or anticipate that, somebody's out there they're verified that they are who they are. You would have to look at behavior over time and then have like a review, like a periodic review. I got, like, for example, I had an account years ago, and someone cloned my account and they created an account of my likeness. And that account was more popular than the actual original account. So I would go online and was like, wow, they're putting out stuff out there and they have like 10 times the followers I have. And it took me like some months to get that other account removed, because for them, they were Maurice Dawson. And I had to explain, like, no, this isn't me. This is my actual account. I'm Maurice Dawson. That is not me. And so it's going to be a process that can't be solely determined by another AI tool. It needs to have a human in a loop to go in there and do some investigation.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to add to that. And I think we are approaching the point where the AI generated content is becoming indistinguishable. But the one of the main things is there's a large population of people that take social media at face value instead of taking the time to actually do the research. Dr. Dawson talked about there needs to be a human factor associated with understanding who people actually are. So going back to his example of the fake account that was created, if people don't take the time to actually research who he is or try to understand who this person actually is, and they take AI at face value, because it's becoming more sophisticated and complicated, right? Some of the things that you can do with AI as far as like imagery and media. I was looking at some stuff earlier today where they had the president basically reenacting pop culture, and if I know those were not his words, but anyone that didn't take the time to understand, they can easily be influenced by what they see on the screen. So I think we need to make sure that we are actually taking the time to do due diligence on researching who is actually saying these things and if these things are actually true or not, and not taking things at face value just because we see them out on the internet.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to make a contribution, if that works.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay, so yeah, I'll merge this with the previous contribution I wanted to make to a previous question to Dr. Dawson, which is around the need for handshakes or treaties or conventions around nations, among nations. So in Africa, these things are very difficult. You know that we have the Malabo Accord, for instance, from a cybersecurity point of view. And for nations like Nigeria, who are dualists in approach, which means that every treaty or convention which they sign up to has to be ratified. So it's a dualist approach. You have to ratify it before it becomes operational. So you'd be surprised that the Malabo Convention, as of today, after many years, is still not ratified in Nigeria. I don't think South Africa has as well. So these are the big giants, and they haven't, this is something they have signed, but they have not ratified it. So signing conventions, is just one thing. Ratifying it is another. So that's a challenge. At the national level, there are a couple of nations. There are such activities going on in Nigeria, even in South Africa as well. But we'll see how that happens. Now, on the second question, I'd like to answer it from a different angle, looking at a cultural background as Africans. I think there's a paper previously written by Dr. Dawson and others, which goes to underline the trusting nature of Africans. Dr. Dawson, I hope I'm correct, that Africans are very trusting people. And, we always say this on the street, that seeing is believing. The African man once he sees it, he believes it. Now, put that in the context of deep fakes. So imagine the poor grandmother in the village sees a deep fake of his son in distress, and she's been asked to pay money for ransom, else they would kill the poor grandchild. He's going to believe you, or she's going to believe you, because there's no thing you can explain to her. We don't even have the word artificial intelligence in our language. So how do you even explain that to that human? So it has come to that point where it is going to be very difficult challenge particularly for us as Africans, to distinguish between what is real and what is not real. Even things such as a 2-3 second audio, they can use it to clone your voice. Just a simple sample of 2-3 seconds can be used to clone your voice and get a perfect conversation that is, claiming to be you. So these are things that are existential threats that is there. Unfortunately, it's very difficult for us to, stop or mitigate some of these. So it's a big problem out there. What can we do? Well, awareness, use of tools, but then how do we even get access to the tools? They cost a lot of money. They require a lot of sophistication in some cases. So these are some of the challenges we have to face as Africans, but it's a very good question which you asked, and also very good contributions by others as well.
Now, before we get to where we open the floor for every other questions, if you have questions, please put them on the chat. I'm also monitoring the chat. I'm soon going to start picking up questions from there. But since since Sibe just finished speaking, I just want to put on one question that has been put forward to you earlier, straight up to you, so that we can just close that part. Someone said, the question is coming from Noble Daniel. He said, good presentation from Dr. Sibe. He said, my question is, what is the next pragmatic actionable in solving the security fiasco of data exchange between two nations in West Africa?
Well, yeah, that's where we call for these conventions and these treaties, first of all, to provide the framework for that exchange. That framework, first of all, has to be there. Then after that, another thing that sometimes undermines such exchanges, the fact that there is uneven readiness, uneven state of readiness. So for instance, nation A might have a better policy, better state of readiness in terms of cybersecurity, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of, for instance, if I want to give you classified information, I expect that you're going to use it properly. I expect that you're going to use it responsibly. I expect that you're going to keep it as it is, as classified. And where I see that nation B does not have those guarantees and those controls, it becomes a problem. So we have to, first of all, have that framework that will, regulate this, and then set in place the motion to try and raise our regional level of readiness to at least those basics and those fundamentals of ensuring that intelligence is shared in a responsible way and in an effective way, in a way that there are no issues as to information governance.
Thank you very much. My next question on cybercrime and law enforcement is to another of our speaker, Jesse. I think Jesse, I was seeing him on the call earlier. I think if you're here, how have misinformation campaign been used to facilitate financial fraud or social engineering attacks? Because most of us have little money in the banks and we are interested, as just like Adewi said, some of this money that have been wiped out. Is Jesse here, please? The floor is yours.
No, he's not here. He needed to go, but I can talk on this.
Yeah, anybody can speak up on that then.
Yeah, so this one's interesting, right? So, when we think about scams, right? If you're not Nigerian, everybody hears about the Nigerian prince, 419 scams, the black money that you get clean and stuff like that. However, it's a lot more, in depth, right? So, you think about during COVID, there were a lot of people that were being scammed because they had deep fakes. There was messages that were written, and it's difficult now because you can use AI to mimic how an individual talks and sounds regionally. Like in the United States, like there are words that are used here in the Chicagoland area that aren't used in Alabama or in Florida or California. So I can use AI to create a whole message that sounds like I am like a neighbor. And so, that is an issue because I can use that to say, all right, well, I need your bank account information, or I can call up a customer service, pretend I am the wife of somebody on the account and say, hey, something's wrong with my child. I need to get access. I start getting little information piece by piece. And so, again, the human is going to be the weakest link, but this allows for a an easier method to accomplish social engineering. And now with AI, and there is a lot more, the threat landscape for social engineering has changed a lot, because all the things that you could do before, I would have you, not me personally, but someone would have to mimic a woman's voice or try to pretend that they were an individual or knew somebody. I could just go now on the web and there's sites that you could pay like $20, 20 US dollars, and I can get all the information, use that, feed a model to start mimicking behavior and know the answers that that particular person should say. Security questions, hey, you know, how many, you know, where did you grow up? Okay, it's all in there. I fed my model. I can go in there, I can ask, all right, this person grew up where? Boom, I got the security question, right? And so this very complicates thing as it relates to the financial. In Kenya, they use a item called M-Pesa. So M-Pesa is mobile banking. And so when you using mobile banking, imagine getting a message like, hey, I'm sick. And you look in the message, it's, you know, it's a 254 country code. So it's like, okay, it's Kenya. This is my cousin. Something's wrong with him. He just needs like 1,000 shillings, no big deal. But once that is done over and over, you know, continuously, then they've, you know, gathered pretty much a large sum, you know, right? And so it's only the large amounts of money that is being flagged. Small amounts of money, like, it was 100 naira, no big deal. But imagine that particular attack happening thousands of times.
Thank you very much. I think one of the other speakers, Professor Angela, is not here, but before we get to say how AI is being used in healthcare, I would like to open up the floor for questions. Let's open up the floor now. As many of you that have questions for any of the speakers, please unmute yourself or just indicate by raising your hand, and we'll give you the floor to ask your question. Or you drop that question on the chat. But before you go ahead with that, let me give the President Lepa to speak on behalf of Professor Angela. I think he has one or two things to say. President, please go ahead.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Dr. Danjuma. Thank you for the speakers. Everything has been going perfectly well. Professor Angela supposed to be here. Her flight was diverted because of what is happening in the east to Egypt. Just praying that God will grant her journey mercy. She was on her way to Vietnam and she was diverted to Egypt. Well, she's supposed to talk to us on this platform on how AI is influencing decision making and improving things in the healthcare sector. I think I've participated in some programs with her on the use of AI in healthcare system, developing devices. We developed AI-enhanced BMI machine. Dr. Philip is also part of the team, and we're able to see how a simple machine can be able to measure the patient's BMI by calculating the weight, the height within seconds. Unlike the conventional means of patient will come, stand on the weight measuring apparatus, come, they use meter to check your height and calculate for BMI. That will take days for you to get a result. And in seconds, we're able to do that. That will facilitate patient care, will facilitate intervention, as the case may be. She has also been involved, and we as well, in developing an AI-enhanced patients pill inventory in diabetic patients in Uganda. A series of programs with epileptic monitoring of people with epileptic episodes by the use of AI. So Professor Angela has been involved in a lot of AI devices to enhance healthcare in Africa. So she loves Africa and she has been there in the front line. I was hoping that she would be here. Unfortunately, she's not here. So AI is one thing we should embrace, especially in the healthcare sector, to enhance deliverability of our services and to ensure patient safety and patient recovery. So that's briefly what I can say from what she has been doing in Africa.
Thank you,
Dr. Dandilo.
Thank you very much. And the floor is open now. If you have a question, please unmute yourself and ask your question, please. Anybody? While we're still waiting for questions, there was a comment that was made on the chat, and someone said, "I think an expert certification token should be displayed on profiles. This token has to be earned by certifying the individual is credible through exams and experience." He said, for instance, China has implemented something close to this, but I am not sure they have established the visual tokenization. So I think this should be in line. This should be the question targeted to the misinformation and stuff guidance that Dustin was speaking about.
Yeah, I think something like this is actually really good and is necessary. However, it requires a third party to do this. So there needs to be some entity that is going to take charge of this. The problem in the case of Nigeria, you have 240 million people. So it's a lot of people, and there's a lot of people on social media. And so what this means is that you're going to have to find money from somewhere to fund this organization, because they're not going to make money unless you have organizations say, all right, well, for you to be on any social media, which you don't control because most of that is coming from the Western world, to pay for this use, you're going to have to figure out a way to fund that. And so that's going to have to come from, I don't know, oil, tourism, but there's going to have to be some set aside for this, and individuals trained. Now, if you do something like that, perfect. In the case of China, the PRC does all that stuff. Their government is funding that. That is a big difference, right? So their government funds these initiatives, which means the Nigerian government has to say, all right, well, here we're going to give millions of naira for this initiative to stop disinformation.
Thank you. One question here, I think on Noble is asking, in security systems, are there components that won't be affected by AI? I think maybe Khan can answer this. Are there components that won't be affected by AI, or any other person can answer it? In security system, are there components that won't be affected by AI?
Well, let me make a little contribution. Number one, we should establish and we should recognize that there is risk when we are dealing with anything called AI as touching computing. Number two, you need to question the source. Yeah, objectively, you have to be able to verify the source. Number three, you need to investigate what issue are you really seeking clarity from in the web space. And I think number four, you have to think before you link. I repeat, you need to think before you link. And the last one that I want to say here, you need to talk with your social circle. You have to talk with your social circle. I think it's going to go a long way. So there is no aspect of this infrastructure that can't be affected or targeted by these people I call manipulators. So every aspect or sector can be affected. So they come from different areas, different angles, in order to achieve their aim and target.
Please
so
mute.
Let me make a contribution to that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, AI in modern security space actually is quite central. It's central to different aspects, just as data is central. But however, there are aspects of it that is less dependent on AI. So, for instance, physical security. If you lock your server room with a physical padlock, AI has nothing to do with that. If you air gap your system, it is limited to whatever has direct access within the system that is air gapped. If you have a Faraday, like you have Faraday bag for isolation, Faraday cage, those are aspects of security. AI has nothing to do with those physical.
Please, just hold on. Please mute your mic. Please mute your mic. If you are not speaking, please mute your mic, please. Please, go on. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, all of what I was saying was built around the physical side of things. Physical security controls, AI has very little role it plays there. Also, so far, AI, while it has the capability, but it has not been exploited that much in breaking strong encryption. This is because most of the strong encryptions are mathematically grounded. So even when you try to use AI, it's not like it's not possible, but so far it has not been on an industrial scale been exploited. AI has nothing to do with, like offline backups, that's at rest or something, So those aspects of security, AI has very little it can do with it. Also, regulatory oversight. There's a role of the human, the guy who comes to check whether you're in compliance to, say, a GDP arrow or, say, an NDPA for Nigeria. That's a human role. So these are also aspects of security, but AI plays very little role in that. So most of the physical things, yes, AI plays very little role in that regard.
I think just to add to what you said, Sibe, I think by our next roundtable in April, you might be shocked that AI will have closed that gap a bit. Why do I say that? Because by virtue of my background, that I can speak across computational science to geoscience, I am being constantly approached to develop questions that has not been solved by AI, particularly mathematical questions and computational questions that are extremely difficult, and also provide the solution. So in a way where these companies are investing so much and recruiting experts to help bridge this particular gap, and they're working at a serious pace and they're ready to pay for it. So I'm please mute your mic. Please mute your mic. Sorry. So this is just to add to it that I'm sure that these guys are working so hard at that pace and they might average it very soon. So, Samson, you're welcome. Please go ahead. Samson, you have the floor. Go ahead.
Yeah, so thank you. So I was late. So my name is Samson, and I'm a PhD student at the Center for Cybersecurity and Forensic Education. I'm working under Dr. Morris. Yeah, so with the penetration of AI and is AI going to affect everything? I think right now what we need to start thinking about is how to adopt AI into every field that we are. As you said, this is very serious because these guys are working more than 40 hours a week trying to implement new infrastructure and improving these AI. For example, in 2017, when Attention is All You Need came, and that was where the first time the transformer architecture came. And, this was brought by some group of experts in Google. And 2019, understanding language models by generative pre-training brought ChatGPT, where ChatGPT came, which was just like a large language model. But now look, ChatGPT moved from being a large language model, became generative AI. Now it's moved beyond generative AI to what? Agentic AI. So this is how serious things are becoming. Like now, ChatGPT is not just like a generative pre-trained model only. It's just like agents, different agents. We have like retrieval augmented generation and other kind of agents working together to power ChatGPT now and other like language models. So this is how dangerous it's becoming. And like I was telling Dr. Morris about this, that about 50% of computer science professors in Harvard drop their position to go and work in industry. And it should tell you how AI is really penetrating and how can we adopt AI in education, adopt AI in healthcare, AI in whatever thing that you're doing, how to implement AI, because now it's making life much easier and quicker. Although we are also thinking about the security aspect of it, but there is secure AI. Most of the systems that they are building are secured, and although we have bad actors who are bringing like new AI models and products which are not evaluated, but we always think about how we can, we can bring more like secure AI to the industry and all the things that we are doing. So adopting AI, even in education, is very important. Like I'm a TA or a professor, he allows the students to use GPT to do the homework. But now, after you are done, you need to write a reflection on what the response the AI gave you and why you are, what you got from the AI's response and your own input. So this is really like something that is going on. And there is a course on CS 230 by Stanford University about machine learning and deep learning. And this tutor was talking about the fact that he is like, he employs people into these big companies like IBM and all that. But when you come for an interview and you don't know how to really use maybe AI, especially use Cursor, Codex, CLI in Gemini and all these, he's not going to employ you because you are going to be slow with productivity. And like somebody who is an expert in this field is going to be employed over you. So like AI is really penetrating. And one thing that I always be alarming is that you should really know how to use it very well, how to, upgrade your your prompting skills and writing good prompt and also, writing good code and scripts and all that to advance in your field that you are working in. And this is a great thing because we can use AI for anything. If you have a data set, we can use machine learning, we can use deep learning, we can use large language models for prediction, for analysis, for explainability and all these other stuff. So this is what I also say, that we need to really start advancing ourselves to adopt AI in any field that we are working in. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Samson. And we just have like I think 18 more minutes to go, and we are going to take a few more questions before we allow our speakers to give us a takeaway message that we need from them speaking with us today. Any other question, please? Okay, in the absence of any other questions, is looking ahead 10 years from now, what would be the single...
Dr. Danjuma?
Yes, please.
Sorry, that was the time that like Dr. Eprosomugaji was trying to say something.
Okay.
One time like that. So, Prof, I'm not bringing you to do spotlight, but we like to hear from you. He was a former president of CEMRI, and he's on call. So, Prof, I believe you want to say something. Oh, is he not online again?
I can see him online, but I think maybe network issue.
Okay, go ahead. Probably when he comes.
Okay, fine. So one of the question I'm putting forward is what would be the single most important capability society must develop to defend against AI-driven PsychOps? So I think I'll put this back to our chief speaker, and any other person can contribute within the little time we have left.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, that single most important capability society must develop to defend against AI-driven PsychOps.
Sure. I think this one, the single most important thing, is the ability or the need to want to verify and do their own research. A lot of times we're busy with life, kids, partner, family, cooking. There's so much stuff, right? Yeah. And so to do yet another thing becomes like, it's a stress. We're like, I don't want no wahala, right? You're just tired. And so what happens is we get the news, we just want to rest. We just want to be entertained. So we look at our phones, we're on the net. And so we just look at this news and we're like, we just take it for what it is, face value. However, we have to want and understand that we need to go far beyond what we just see on the surface to really understand what's going on, because it can create significant problems for not just us, but our countrymen and people in our region, because we as individuals fail to actually do what is necessary to understand if it's real or not.
Thank you very much. I will come back to CB and any other person because we're interested in interfacing with government. And this is one of the platforms that is one of the objectives of CEMRI, to say we're not going to only solve African problem alone. We want to solve African problem together with the state actors. And coming back to CB now to say, if you are to speak to government, if you are to use this platform to tell government something, what do you want government to do in all what we have discussed here today, in terms of policy, in terms of AI-driven capability, in terms of forensic, anything at all?
Thank you very much. The first thing is to come to the realization that the gap is there. So like it's written in train stations and elsewhere, mind the gap. You have to draw their attention to that sign that they should mind the gap. The gap is there. And unfortunately, that is setting us backward. So if I'm to answer the question which Dr. Dawson just answered now, I am going to say that most important skill set is awareness, and otherwise also called cognitive resilience at scale. You know, people need to be aware of what the AI can do, of what the controls are, what you can do, possibly, one, to leverage the tool, and two, to stay protected. So one, how can you use the tool? Because AI has come to stay. And then two, how can you also be equipped so as you do not become a victim of AI? So it means that basic education has to be applied across board. It has to be integrated into our universal basic education scheme. Our kids use ChatGPT just as a tool. They jump in, get answers, but that's not all that there is to AI. So it has to be carefully introduced to our educational system, from the basic education level down to the university level. We still see, I've seen a lot of professors around here struggle to know where to fit AI. I still see people talk about, oh, AI is in computer science department. Another says, oh no, it's in this department, forgetting that AI is everywhere. AI is in linguistics, AI is everywhere. So on the policy point of view, that conversation needs to be held. That conversation has to happen very early so that we do not be like the oil and gas sector that is over 60 years old, yet we do not control any aspect of it. AI is something we can easily leverage because, yes, it has infrastructural angle, but it also has the knowledge component which we can easily, quickly get. We have the personnel, we have the human resources, but we need to set them up to excel. So we have to fuse it into our basic education, and then we have to create avenues that we can accelerate this, acceleration pipelines, so that we can quickly produce. There are those who can be, jump started to a very high level, but the generality of the citizens has to have that basic awareness of what AI is. They need to have that resonance.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Quickly, I'm coming back again. Is Professor Mogaji in the house, please? The floor is yours. We need you to say something. If it's not online, Dr. Dobare, can you say something? Unmute yourself, introduce yourself, and say something, please. These are the senior fellows in CEMRI, and they're expert in their own field, and I would like them to say one or two things.
So can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Sorry, I'm in the midst of where the children are, and again, 2 devices. I'm trying to see what to do to reduce one of it. Yeah, so I sincerely have to thank everyone that all the speakers, and well, truly grateful for all the presentation that have been made and the questions that have been answered. And again, we want to see more of this, and I'm happy that CEMRI, we have a mission, and the mission is to not just to make it an academic exercise. We just have to see what to do to make sure that we transmit what we are doing into solving both industrial and the government problem. And that's why one of the key things that we are marked this year is to make sure that we interfaced with the government, and then from there the government will be able to tell us their problem. For example, we have initiated with the Nigerian government at the moment, and there's a conference that is coming up. We want to showcase to them what we tend to solve and the problem that we tend to solve. Another one is in South Africa, where we've been able to have, there's a conference that we're going to have with one of the students from India and one of the graduate student, the PhD student in India. So, I mean, from India, who is very much happy to network with us. So we call upon our speakers at any time to help CEMRI with the vision we have to solve African problem. And we are out for it, and we're determined for it. Once again, thank you very much for the effort. And I believe that we'll continue to partner together and to collaborate together. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Dawson, do you have any other thing to say before?
Well, I mean, all I have to say is like, I appreciate you inviting, myself and the members from the Center for Cybersecurity and Forensic Education here at Illinois Tech, Professor Damon Walker from University of Missouri, St. Louis, Dr. Sibe as well, our local hometown hero who is well-renowned in forensics, and those that could not be here, such as Professor Wells. I think that forums like this are great because a lot of times we have the answers amongst each other and we look to other entities for those answers. And I think the more that we work together, we put action behind ideas, I think that we can solve things just amongst ourselves. And I think this is what is needed to continue to progress forward.
On behalf of CEMRI, on behalf of CEMRI, I would like to thank all our speakers for coming. And I also like to thank everybody that has contributed to this discussion. And I also want to inform us that by April, we would like to see most of you, almost everyone, registered again for another discussion, thought-provoking discussion. Like we said, CEMRI is multidisciplinary, and I am a perfect example of that multidisciplinary because I can speak from computer science perspective up to master level. I can speak geoscience at a PhD level. So I'm doing work from AI to sustainability and all that domain complete. So I can speak to government, I can speak to any other person. And if you want us to speak at your own forum as well, you can invite me to speak. I'm happy to do so. But I appreciate all our colleagues and everyone that has chaired this roundtable discussion today, and particularly to CEMRI Management for giving me the opportunity to chair this roundtable discussion. See you in April. Thank you very much.
Thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you and bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Grateful for coming. Thank you. Thank you. It was awesome. It was awesome. We've learned a lot of things. And I think with this roundtable discussion today, oh, my video is not showing, sorry.
Yeah.
So I think from this roundtable discussion today, we've learned a lot of things about artificial intelligence, which has transformed psychological operations, and it has transformed psychological operation into strategic tools capable of shaping global public perception, influencing global events. So addressing this very important issue is not what we can do it alone. We need collaboration, and that is exactly what we have done. When I contacted Mo, he said I should call him Mo. I should not call him Prof. No? And he told me that we are going to put this together. I was so grateful. I spoke with my brother, Dr. Sibe, and it was also connecting to Dr. Darwin. Everybody that has spoken today, it was awesome. So we need to collaborate more. We need to see a way we can continue to help Africa to solve Africa's problems. CEMRI is open for ideas. We can write grants together. I think one of the things we also discussed was that after this roundtable discussion, we'll see how we can organize a boot camp, tech boot camp in Nigeria. Prof Mo, I hope you still remember.
I think they have signed out already.
Oh,
okay. Because I just rounded it up for them since there was no further questions. So we can take it up with them individually. So
okay. I'll reach out to them. So thank you everyone and have a nice day.
Thank you. Have a nice day, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
MIT did not want to come up for this.
Ignition.